The NHL Calder race is getting more and more intense as the days go by, as Lane Hutson is creeping up to Matvei Michkov, as they've both been on absolute tears to start this season. But we got some stats to show that it might be better than you even think for Lane Hutson. We got to dive into that, plus some Joel Armia trade talk and what he could very well fetch at the trade deadline and how he may be the top candidate to use a retention slot, and a pretty awesome Habs prospect update. A couple of names that we don't mention too often on this channel that'll get you excited coming up on this episode of Habs Digest. But Jesse, haven't done this in a long while, but I just want to point out again that half the people watching this video are not subscribed. And guys, we got a big goal. We want to hit 16,000 subscribers before Christmas. That's about 400 subs before Christmas. You guys have been able to help us with that before. We'd really appreciate if we could hit that goal. So if you want to help us, you enjoy our daily videos, our weekly streams, keep it updated on all the best Habs content, hit the subscribe button down below. It's completely free and help us with our goal. Jesse, time to get into this video. And I want to start with some prospect stuff. And specifically one guy that we haven't really mentioned too much, but we'll get into him in a second. The first guy, actually, is another one that we haven't mentioned too much, but that's Juraj Davidson of the Laval Rocket, and he's been on a tear. If you guys haven't been checking out the Laval Rocket, who are still third place, I think, in the entire AHL, their goal-scoring leader is Joshua Waugh, 10 points in 20 games. No surprise that he's up there. But Juraj Davidson, Jesse, this guy was a multi-time, 38 and 42 goal scorer in the WHL with the Seattle Thunderbirds, won the Memorial Cup. Had a decent year last year with 10 goals in 38 games, 12 goals maybe, but he has 10 goals in 20 games so far this year. He is tied for their leading goal scorer. This guy's came out of nowhere kind of, and I've been super impressed with him.
He's kind of separating himself. He was in the mix with obviously a lot of good prospects, even though he showed some good successes kind of early on in his junior career. Is he at 6 foot? But isn't it just me, Josh? Like, I find he always plays a little bit bigger than his size. He just has such a good way of protecting the puck. He's got a great shot, and he kind of plays like that tough sort of game as well, kind of complete game. So again, yeah, those 10 goals, 5 assists to boot, 15 points in 20 games. Like, this is a little bit of a surprise for me still. Like, we saw some good kind of signs from him, even at camp, where he was kind of raising a couple eyebrows. Like, okay, who's this guy? People wanted to take a deeper dive. But I mean, he's just continuing on right now. And the way that he's going, he's playing himself into an eventual NHL position.
Yeah, who knows whether it'll be with Montreal or someone else, but like, you know, seeing this kind of growth is what you want to see year over year. Now, there's a lot of year left. He could very well fall off or something, but 10 goals in 20 games at the AHL level in your second year in the AHL, it's, well, it's worth noting. But there's another prospect, Jesse, that I don't even know if we've ever mentioned on the channel. That has been off to a very hot start this season, and that is a goalie. And it's not a goalie you guys might know, and it's Emmett Croteau, a former 6th-round pick in 2022. Now, he switched colleges. He went from Clarkson University to Dartmouth College. He is officially the backup, but he's played 4 games. The starter has played 7 games. But in his 4 games, Jesse, he's been beyond impressive. A .915 save percentage with a 1.81 GAA, 6'4", 205. He's 21 years old, about to turn, well, actually, just turned 21 yesterday. So, happy birthday to Emmett Croteau. Again, I don't think this guy is really necessarily worth scouting for sure. Like, this guy is one of our... No. But at the same time, it's worth highlighting when guys that we don't even think about a lot of the time have hot starts to the season. So I just wanted to highlight this because this guy, after having a pretty rough year last year with an .835 save percentage in 6 games, he's been off to a really nice start.
Playing well and helping his team, you know, kind of win right now. So that's definitely why he's getting the highlight right now. And add a little bit of a bigger guy when we're kind of looking at some of his clips, some of his highlights, like surprisingly quick and athletic in the net at being 6'4", 205, all the same. So we want to see him kind of continue. We know with goalies, obviously, like with all prospects, there's kind of some valleys and some highs there as well. You know, so he's looking to just continue putting on that work. And if so, he's going to be on another episode of Habs Digest before we know it.
I hope so. Hey, one of those sneaky guys that might turn into something, probably won't, but worth noting. Shout out to you, Emmett Croteau. Really, really nice start to the season. But let's move on, Jesse, to some more trade talk. And I want to talk a bit about Joel Armia. And my gosh, I think he could be worth a lot. Now, we've mentioned him as trade bait on the channel many, many times, going back to last year, but a recent article from the Montreal Gazette that I will link down below, go read it, is Stu Cowan's most recent mailbag, and he got us talking about this again, Jesse, and his mailbag said the Canadiens will have some options at the deadline. Matheson, Savard, Armia, Evans among the players who could be moved. Oh, man, some of them should stay, some of them maybe should go. Stu mentions how Jake Evans and Mike Matheson, he thinks they should stay. I mean, Evans is a UFA this year, so he could just leave anyway. I don't know. There's talk about him, but he's not the guy I want to focus on. I want to focus on Armia. And Stu puts it very well, and I think I agree with pretty much everything. He's 31. He's a veteran, can play up and down the lineup. He's a good penalty killer. He's in the last year of his contract. A lot of teams would probably be willing to overpay for him. He's a big body, great penalty killer. He's been Montreal's extra attacker at times. He's a Swiss Army knife. He was named to Team Finland as a veteran. meeting names like Jesperi Kotkaniemi or Matias Michelli, he can make for a very valuable player come playoff time, Jesse. Now, Montreal does only have that one retention slot left, and Armia's contract at that $3.54 million range. Like, I think it's 3.5, but it's not super easy to fit in for a contender. And when you're looking to retain salary, you got options like maybe if you trade Dvorak, maybe if you trade Armia, maybe if you trade Savard. I think Armia might be the guy that you can get the best return on a retention for. Am I crazy for saying that? I think this guy's going to be worth more than people think come deadline.
Yeah, absolutely. And it'll be worth it to see, okay, does he need to do that on Dvorak, kind of swing the spot, or, in a better position, obviously do this with Armia, because we know Kent Hughes wants to get that best return back, which I think is the big thing for him here. Of course, like there's going to be some things that we miss from his game because Joel Armia is going to be gone for the Montreal Canadiens by this trade deadline. It's just not the fact that like he's not a good player, he's not contributing to this team. He definitely is. It's that inevitable turning of the guard, Josh, from that Bergevin area to the Kent Hughes era where it's like the writing's just on the wall. And you got to feel like, he's a player under the right circumstances that can have a lot of success, going on to his next team in the future. We know just going to the Four Nations is definitely going to raise up his value as well. They're kind of coming in, we like his game, but we know that with what we have kind of coming up, this contract kind of coming to the close, it seems like very likely in just a couple months' time that Joel Armia will be finding another home.
Yeah, and like the way I look at it too is if you're trading it to a team where you need to retain in order to make this move, I don't think Montreal would look to another team to retain for them. I think that would not really be worth it on a guy of Armia's caliber. Not to say he's bad. Again, it's just, usually that doesn't happen with guys like that. But I think you could get more if you retain. I think it depends. I think it's going to come down to either Armia or Savard. And I think Kent Hughes and Jeff Gorton are going to have to look at the offers they get and say, like, retaining on which one of these guys is going to net us a better return. And, because it's going to be hard for contending teams to fit in either Armia or Savard at that near $4 million hit for both of them just without any retention. I don't know. I think it's going to come down to that. Jesse, do you have any idea which one of those two you think is more likely to get dealt? Do you think it'll be both? Do you think they'll pull some shenanigans to try and get those contracts in other teams?
There's going to be a greater demand for David Savard just because of the right hand demand. And also there's a little bit of a limited market. We're even seeing some trades like with Trouba getting taken off the board much earlier than expected, which quite frankly only raises David Savard's value. We know that as we get close to that trade deadline, it will do nothing but increase. There's going to be a big demand for him.
It's going to be crazy. We'll have to wait and see. But let us know your thoughts down below. Should Montreal retain Armia, Savard? Who's going to fetch more at the deadline? We'd love to hear from you. Final topic. This is getting intense, and it keeps getting better for our boy Lane. Like the Calder race, Jesse, it's just fun. It's fun to talk about rookies. It's fun to talk about Montreal Canadiens in that running, right? And right now, it's pretty close. I mean, right now, I would say, unfortunately, as much as we all don't like to hear that, Matvei Michkov is probably the leader. The guy's been almost a point per game. He had a few games in a row with multiple points, 24 points in 25 games right now. But Lane Hutson, 18 assists in 27 games. Right now, it's Matvei Michkov and Lane Hutson. And don't forget, Lane Hutson's putting up this point production on a team like Philly's not amazing, but Montreal we knew was going to be a bad team. And Hutson's still putting up these crazy numbers. 0.67 points per game. He's only behind Michkov and Macklin Celebrini in terms of point per game of all players. He's tied with Logan Stankoven. But I got a few other things to show you. One other guy, 0 goals this season, Adam Fox, a guy who we've compared Lane Hutson to a whole lot in the last year or two. Fox has 0 goals, 22 assists. So for anyone mocking that 0 goals, just going to point out this former Norris winner for you. Final thing, Jesse, I had some advanced stats just to give some extra credence to Lane Hutson. His relative Corsi and Fenwick, the CF percent rel and the FF percent rel, just to bring your eyes there. Corsi is just shot attempts total control of your team, basically. So 50% Corsi 4 means your team controls 50% of the shots when you're on the ice. And the other team also controls 50%. But the relative one, 7.2 and 8.4 relatively. Jesse, that means that when Lane Hutson's on the ice, his team controls 7.2% more of the shots and 8.4% more of the unblocked shots than they do with him off the ice. These are crazy numbers. This guy's making a huge impact, and I expect this race to be close, but Lane Hutson is putting himself in some incredible company, especially on a team that's not producing that much offensively.
Like putting up similar numbers to Cale Makar and Quinn Hughes when they were Calder finalists as well. And the fact that our boy Lane Hutson, Lane Trade, is doing this while having more responsibilities on the ice than Matvei Michkov will factor into this. He is doing this as a defenseman, we know that getting those goals, I think, will kind of help Lane Hutson's kind of conversation for the Calder. This is still ongoing. The injuries, anything like that can completely change. It's like there is a way where Lane Hutson is getting, he's firmly in that second place above a Logan St-Hoven, because now in that second tier, if you put any of those forwards, similar point production, and then being good defensively, having good defensive metrics like Lane Hutson is doing, he puts them above everybody else. So just get a little bit more of those goals and everything else like that. He's going to be solidly in the mix here. So we have to look at this going forward. Josh, quick hitter for you. Lane Hutson, is he going to be a point per game player as a defenseman in the NHL? If so, when's that going to happen?
You know what?
I believe so.
I don't mind the bold take and just saying, it's hard to say but he's so good already. Like I'm gonna say yeah, especially with the fact that goals are happening more and more every single year, Jesse. The amount of points that players are getting is going up and up and up, and unless there's some major change, I don't see that kind of reverting back. So I would say we're maybe 3-4 years away from him starting to be in that conversation. I mean, he's on pace for 50 odd plus points this year. Wouldn't surprise me if in 3-4 years we're looking at he's getting into the 60s, even 70s, and we're having that conversation. But I think there's a world where it happens, especially if he starts to get some goals. And I also want to give a quick shout out to Macklin Celebrini, because the only reason I don't think he's first right now is because he's only played 18 games. I fully expect him to be the front runner in maybe a week or two, because right now that dude's on an absolute tear, Jesse. He is carrying that Sharks team. But all the same, Lane Hutson's unreal. How about a hot prediction for you? Will Lane Hutson win the Calder? Just simple questions. We saw Brock Faber last year have much more responsibility, especially defensively, than Connor Bedard, and he did get a lot of love, but did not win the award. It often goes to that offensive player. But if Lane Hutson continues this point production with his defensive minutes, what do you think?
Michkov will get it this year, barring an injury. If not, Hudson's getting it for sure. But as for that conversation of him becoming that point per game player, which I think all the writing's on the wall that he will become that sooner than later. And I think the reason of even sooner because of that is his biggest skill on the ice is his anticipation.
Yeah.
It's his hockey IQ. So that's meaning he's registering the game super well at a high speed. So that goes to show he's just going to adapt very quickly and kind of become that point per game player much quicker than other players, even with the amazing skill set. That's the thing that even takes him. It's not just the deceptiveness. It's really his anticipation of knowing, because he knows what's going to do even ahead of time. So that's definitely his secret skill, which I just see as a great indicator of not only success, but also coming at a quicker rate than we expect.
Absolutely. I'm super excited to see what's to come for Lane Hutson, because already he's proving people wrong. His defensive minutes look amazing. The dude looks great in his own end. He got to clean up some minor penalties, but the turnovers are going down. He's starting back to juking people again. And he's getting assists, it feels like, every single night on a 6-game point streak. So let us know what your thoughts are. Will Lane Hutson win the Calder? Will it be Celebrini? Will it be Michkov? I think it's going to be a 3-headed dragon here as we head towards the end of the season. But it wouldn't surprise me if Hutson gets a bit more love than we would have expected coming into the year. That'll do it for this episode of Habs Digest. If you enjoyed, leave a like, comment, subscribe to the channel. Like we asked, we'd really appreciate it. We got that big goal. If you could help us out, we would really, really love it. I'm Josh Gosse, my co-host, Jesse Poirier. We'll catch you in the next one.